Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're traveling together to a frozen kingdom filled with magic, emotions, and secrets. A place where every snowflake tells a story, where mountains echo ancient songs, and where two sisters discover that true love can melt even the coldest hearts. Today, we're stepping into the world of Frozen, a film that didn't just mark a generation, but reshaped modern animated storytelling. And before we begin this magical journey, remember that in the description, you'll find a completely free PDF filled with activities to help you keep learning English in a fun, practical, and very special way. Inspired by the world of Frozen, and designed to help you improve your vocabulary, your comprehension, and your confidence in the language. Now then, take a deep breath. Feel the soft whisper of the northern wind brushing against your cheeks. Imagine the glow of lanterns reflecting on fresh winter snow. And get ready to step into the frozen heart of Arendelle. Our journey is about to begin. Frozen didn't come to life overnight. In fact, Disney spent more than 70 years trying to adapt it. Yes, you heard that right. 7 decades. The story began with a classic tale by Hans Christian Andersen called The Snow Queen. A dark, symbolic, emotionally complex story about fear, isolation, and shattered innocence. It was beautiful, yes, but incredibly difficult to adapt into a family-friendly animated film. Walt Disney himself was fascinated by the tale. He first attempted to explore it back in the 1940s, imagining a storybook-style animation combined with music, much like Fantasia. But every version hit the same wall. The Snow Queen simply wasn't relatable enough. She lacked warmth, vulnerability, humanity. Audiences might admire her, but they couldn't truly feel her. And so, for decades, the project was picked up and abandoned again and again. Storyboards created and thrown away. Songs drafted and forgotten. Entire teams assembled and disbanded. Disney artists jokingly referred to the Snow Queen as the ice block no one could melt. Until one day, a screenwriter asked the question that changed everything. What if the Snow Queen isn't the villain? What if she's a young woman who's terrified of her own powers? That simple shift, small on the surface, enormous in meaning, brought the entire film back to life. Suddenly, Elsa wasn't a distant, cold antagonist. She became a young woman filled with fear, love, and conflict. Someone who wants to protect others so desperately that she hides the most beautiful part of herself. She became vulnerable, relatable, human. And Anna transformed as well. No longer a traditional fairy tale princess, she became warm, energetic, impulsive, stubborn, hopeful. A girl who throws herself into life without hesitation, and who loves her sister more than she loves anything else in the world. Two sisters, two hearts, one powerful emotional core. With this foundation in place, the world of Frozen began to bloom. The filmmakers traveled to Norway for inspiration, exploring its fjords, mountains, glaciers, stave churches, winter villages, and northern light. The colors of the film, icy blues, pale violets, soft pinks, were inspired by real Nordic sunsets. Even the patterns on Anna's dresses were inspired by traditional Norwegian rosemaling. But despite all this beauty, Frozen was still an enormous creative challenge. Entire drafts of the movie were rewritten, characters reworked, scenes deleted. The original story even had a giant ice monster army serving Elsa at one point. The tone shifted constantly, from musical to dramatic to comedic to mythical. until the team finally found the balance we know today. And Olaf, sweet Olaf, was one of the biggest transformations. Originally, Olaf was meant to be clumsy, chaotic, and barely able to hold himself together, more slapstick than charm. But during early recordings, animator Trent Corey said something that changed Olaf forever. What if Olaf represents the sisters' childhood, their joy, their innocence, the warmth they once shared? And suddenly, Olaf made sense. He became a living memory, a symbol of love frozen in time, and the innocence that both sisters longed to return to. Yet even with these beautiful story elements, something was still missing. Something big. A spark powerful enough to turn Frozen from a promising idea into a global phenomenon. That spark arrived in the form of a song. Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez were working on early drafts of the soundtrack when they began writing a song for Elsa. They sat together talking about fear, identity, pressure, and the feeling of needing to hide who you are from the world. Within a few hours, something emotional, raw, and incredibly powerful took shape. When they finished, they looked at each other and said, "This is it. This is her." That song was Let It Go. When the directors heard it for the first time, they fell silent. Everyone in the room felt it instantly. Elsa wasn't a villain. She was the emotional center of the film, and the entire movie needed to be rebuilt around this moment of liberation. Let It Go changed everything. It rewrote Elsa's personality. It reshaped her motivations. It altered the film's tone. It even changed the architecture of the Ice Palace, as animators redesigned it to match the emotional arc of the song. Idina Menzel's voice was the final piece of magic. Her performance delivered vulnerability, fear, strength, exhaustion, and hope, all at once. When she reached the final high note, the team reportedly burst into applause. Some even cried. They realized they finally had their film. But to bring Elsa's powers to life, Disney needed technology that didn't exist yet. So they created an entirely new simulation system called Matterhorn, a tool capable of rendering millions of snow particles, real-time fractal ice growth, and the physics of freezing water. Every snowflake in Frozen is unique, animated with real mathematical structures. Every burst of ice grows differently, with patterns based on crystalline formation. Elsa doesn't just create ice at random. Her emotions shape it. When she panics, her ice is sharp, chaotic, and dangerous. When she's inspired, it becomes elegant, geometric, almost musical. When she's free, it becomes breathtaking. And with this, we continue the journey. Let's continue our journey through this icy world, because once Elsa's powers were finally understood emotionally and visually, the rest of Frozen began to unfold like a snowflake, delicate, layered, and full of hidden beauty. To truly bring the characters to life, the animators studied real human movement in extraordinary detail. They captured subtle gestures, tiny shifts of the shoulders, nervous habits, breathing patterns, eye movements. Every expression had to remain faithful to the emotional truth of the character. Anna's animation, for example, contains small imperfections. She trips, she talks with her hands, she moves quickly, and then stops abruptly. Elsa, on the other hand, moves slowly, controlled, measured, as if she's constantly afraid of making a mistake. These tiny choices deepen the emotional contrast between the sisters. But behind the beauty of the animation lies an even bigger truth. Frozen is not just about magic. It's about trauma, about growth, about healing. Elsa's constant restraint, her closed posture, her careful steps, the way she keeps her hands close to her body, is a physical representation of years spent hiding who she is. Anna, meanwhile, is a burst of sunlight, her movements wide, her posture open, her eyes always searching for connection. Together, they show the duality of love, fear and hope, isolation and longing, cold and warmth. And this visual storytelling is one of the reasons Frozen connects with so many people across the world. Of course, to build Arendelle, Disney's team needed to design an entire living culture. They created a fictional kingdom with its own architecture, traditions, textiles, folklore, and landscapes. The stave church at the center of Arendelle was inspired by real historic churches from the 12th and 13th centuries in Norway. The royal banners are inspired by Nordic heraldry. Even the bread, pastries, and fabrics were meticulously researched. Nothing in Frozen is random. Anna's warm-toned outfits symbolize life, optimism, and humanity. Her greens and pinks reflect spring, always hopeful, always blooming. Elsa's colors gradually shift throughout the film. From deep royal blues, symbolizing duty, to icy cyan tones during her isolation, to softer blues once she reclaims control. And Kristoff, his design is inspired by the Sami people, the indigenous communities of northern Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. His clothing resembles the gakti, a traditional Sami garment. His reindeer companion, Sven, reflects the importance of reindeer in Sami culture. And his personality, quiet, hardworking, connected to nature, symbolizes a grounded, humble presence. But none of these characters would feel complete without the incredible voice performances behind them. Idina Menzel, Elsa, and Kristen Bell, Anna, recorded many scenes together, a rarity in animation. Their real-life chemistry, laughter, emotional reactions, and overlapping dialogue helped shape the sisters' bond. During recording sessions, Kristen Bell even improvised lines like Anna's awkward rambling during the coronation, while Idina Menzel explored the vulnerability of Elsa through soft breaths, hesitant pauses, and quiet, trembling tones. Josh Gad, the voice of Olaf, brought humor through spontaneous improvisation. Many of Olaf's funniest lines, especially his summer fantasies, were created on the spot during recording. The directors encouraged this because Olaf was meant to feel like a spark of joy, a reminder of childhood innocence. But let's go deeper into the making of the world, because the snow and ice of Frozen were some of the hardest elements ever animated. Disney built a snow lab. Yes, a real snow laboratory, where mathematicians, physicists, and engineers studied snow behavior. They created different kinds of snow textures: powdery snow, thin, icy layers, wet snow that clumps, snow that compresses, snow that flies in the wind, fresh snowfall that sparkles under moonlight, and heavy snowstorms with low visibility. Each scene required its own type of snow. A single shot of Elsa stepping on the mountain could take weeks to finalize, because her footprint had to sink naturally, disturb the surrounding snow, compress realistically, and allow light to refract through the crystals in a believable way. Even the sound of snow was captured using real snow in insulated boxes. Sound engineers stomped, jumped, scraped, and pressed into snow to record all the variations the film needed. And then, there's the Ice Palace, one of the most iconic structures in modern, animated cinema. To design it, the art team studied real ice caves in Iceland. They observed how light traveled through frozen water, how colors shifted from blue to violet to white, how crystalline edges caught the sun. The palace had to look impossible, magical, delicate, but also physically plausible. The animators used fractal algorithms, mathematical patterns that repeat at different scales, to simulate ice growth. Every pillar, staircase, and wall in the palace follows these natural fractal rules. This is why Elsa's ice feels alive, growing and spreading with emotional intention. When Elsa sings Let It Go, the palace doesn't just appear. It blooms around her. It grows like a flower made of winter. Every formation echoes her emotional release, her relief, her discovery of freedom. And speaking of Let It Go, there's something magical about how the team approached it. They treated the sequence like a mini film within the film. Lighting shifted gradually from pale blues to vibrant glacial tones. Elsa's movements transformed from rigid and fearful to fluid, confident, and expressive. Her voice moved from trembling to powerful. Let It Go is not just a musical moment. It's a rebirth. And Frozen's emotional depth continues to unfold as the story progresses. When Anna journeys through the frozen forest with Kristoff, the film shifts into adventure mode. The forest itself is alive with danger and beauty. Trees glisten with frost. Wind whistles through narrow ice tunnels. Snowflakes swirl like tiny enchanted spirits. Every frame feels like a winter postcard brought to life. Anna's unbreakable hope contrasts with Elsa's fear. Kristoff's rational voice of experience contrasts with Olaf's innocence. And the world reacts to the sisters' emotions. Snow thickens during moments of fear. Wind calms when hope appears. Even light changes temperature based on Elsa's emotional state. Then comes the iconic moment inside Elsa's ice palace. The confrontation between the sisters is one of the emotional peaks of the film. Elsa desperately wants to protect Anna, but she also wants to protect the world from herself. This duality tears her apart. Meanwhile, Anna just wants her sister back, even if she doesn't fully understand Elsa's fear. When Elsa accidentally strikes Anna's heart with a shard of ice, the entire film shifts into a new tone. One of urgency, danger, and emotional tension. The concept of Anna's heart freezing is a metaphor, a symbol of emotional disconnect, abandonment, and the damage caused by fear. But even in its darkest moments, Frozen never loses its warmth. And this warmth is something Disney carefully guarded throughout production. Every scene balances humor, danger, emotion, and music. A delicate equilibrium that took years to perfect. Now that the emotional journey is reaching its height, we prepare to enter the final act. As we move deeper into the story, the world around Anna and Elsa becomes colder, the stakes grow higher, and the emotional threads begin pulling tighter and tighter, drawing us toward one of Disney's most powerful finales. After Anna is struck by Elsa's accidental blast of ice, Kristoff becomes her lifeline, both physically and emotionally. He doesn't fully understand what's happening inside her, but he senses her fear, her confusion, her growing weakness, and without hesitation, he decides to take her to the trolls, the family who raised him, hoping they can help. The Troll Valley, glowing with moss, lanterns, and bioluminescent magic, is one of the warmest, most whimsical locations in the film. Its colors, greens, golds, and soft blues, contrast the icy world outside. This visual shift is intentional, symbolizing a place of healing and wisdom. Grandpappy, the eldest troll, delivers the heartbreaking news. Anna's heart is freezing, and only an act of true love can save her. At first glance, this seems like classic Disney logic. True love's kiss, a prince, a romantic moment. But Frozen subverts that expectation completely and beautifully. Meanwhile, Elsa is captured and brought back to Arendelle, locked in chains, terrified of hurting anyone else. Even in captivity, she remains one of the most powerful characters in all of Disney animation. Not because of her magic, but because of her vulnerability. Her panic rises. Her breath becomes shaky. Her emotions spiral, and with them, the storm outside intensifies. Elsa's fear literally shapes the weather, a poetic visual metaphor that follows her throughout the film. While Elsa struggles with her unraveling emotions, Anna faces her own battle against time. Her hair grows whiter. Her energy fades, and the cold seeps deep into her chest, a visual and emotional reminder of Elsa's unintended hurt. Kristoff, realizing the danger, races Anna back to Arendelle, believing Hans, the man she loves, can save her. Their journey through the storm is chaotic, tense, and visually stunning. Winds howling, snow swirling violently, the sea freezing in real time. Ice spikes rising like jagged teeth from the water. It's one of the most visually complex sequences Disney had ever animated at the time. When they finally reach the castle, Kristoff lets Anna go. He believes he's doing the right thing, putting her happiness above his feelings. And then, Frozen reveals one of its boldest twists. Hans, the charming prince, the polite gentleman, the seemingly perfect romantic interest, reveals himself as the true villain. His confession is chilling, not loud, not exaggerated, but calm, calculated, ice cold. He never loved Anna. He only wanted the throne. Anna was a tool, nothing more. Disney crafted this twist with precision. Hans's facial expressions, body language, and melodic speaking cadence subtly shift the moment he drops the mask. His eyes darken. His posture straightens. His voice becomes sharp and unfeeling. It is one of the most shocking Disney reveals in decades, a critique of fairy tale tropes and blind trust. Anna is left alone, betrayed, helpless, freezing. Meanwhile, Elsa escapes the castle. Her fear reaching its breaking point, her storm consuming Arendelle, and every gust of wind reflecting the storm inside her heart. As the snowstorm thickens, Kristoff realizes he loves Anna, desperately trying to reach her through the blizzard. Olaf, braving the cold despite being made of snow, finds Anna and keeps her alive with his warmth, literally and emotionally. His line, "Some people are worth melting for," became one of the most iconic in Disney history. A quiet reminder that love is not always dramatic. It is often gentle, selfless, and soft. But the true emotional climax begins when Anna, barely able to stand, sees something through the storm. Kristoff running toward her, desperate to reach her before it's too late. At the same time, Elsa collapses in the snow, believing Anna is lost forever. Her grief overwhelms her. and the storm begins to die down, because with grief comes stillness. A heartbreaking quiet after years of fear. Hans approaches Elsa, coldly informing her that Anna is dead because of her. This is the moment Elsa's world stops. The wind fades. The snow falls gently. Her breath leaves her lungs in a trembling gasp. And then in the distance, Anna sees Hans raise his sword. She has a choice: save herself with true love's kiss, or save her sister. In her final moment of strength, she chooses Elsa. She throws herself between the sword and her sister, and freezes into solid ice just as the blade strikes. The entire world goes silent. Elsa touches Anna's frozen form, sobbing, breaking, her voice shaking with regret and love. And then Anna thaws, not because of a romantic kiss, not because of a prince, not because of destiny, but because of a selfless act of love between sisters. Disney shattered its own formula. It redefined true love, and it sent a message that resonated across generations. Love is not always romantic. Love is sacrifice. Love is courage. Love is choosing someone over yourself. When Anna comes back to life, Elsa finally understands how to control her powers, not through fear, but through love. The storm stops, the ice melts, light returns to Arendelle, and Elsa, finally free from her internal prison, embraces Anna with a joy that radiates through the entire final act. This moment and this message became one of the most powerful cultural impacts of the film. Frozen inspired millions of viewers around the world, people who saw themselves in Elsa's fear, in Anna's hope, in Olaf's innocence, in Kristoff's loyalty, in Hans's betrayal, and in the idea that family can be the strongest bond of all. The film didn't just entertain, it healed. It opened conversations about anxiety, emotional repression, sisterhood, identity, trauma, and self-acceptance. Parents wrote to Disney saying Frozen helped their children talk about feelings they had never expressed before. Teachers used it in classrooms to discuss empathy. Psychologists referenced Elsa's arc as a tool to explain emotional regulation. And this is why Frozen wasn't just a movie. It was a phenomenon. Now, let's bring this journey toward its final chapter: the cultural legacy, the unprecedented success, and the worldwide impact Frozen left behind. And now, as our journey reaches its final chapter, we step back and look at the incredible impact Frozen left on the world. Because what happened after the movie's release was something nobody expected. Not even Disney. Frozen didn't just perform well, it exploded. Audiences fell in love with its story, its songs, its characters, and especially its message. For children, it was magical. For adults, it was emotional. And for families, it became a shared experience that brought generations together. Let It Go became a cultural phenomenon, sung in schools, parks, living rooms, and cars all around the globe. Elsa became a symbol of empowerment. Anna became a symbol of perseverance. Olaf became a symbol of innocence and warmth. But Frozen's true legacy goes deeper than music charts or merchandise. Teachers used it to talk about emotions. Parents used it to connect with their kids. Psychologists pointed to Elsa's journey as a beautiful metaphor for accepting ourselves, even the parts we fear the most. Disney itself evolved because of Frozen. The film proved that audiences wanted stories about family, identity, vulnerability, sisterhood, not just romance and fairy tale formulas. Frozen opened the door for a new era of animation, one that values emotional truth just as much as adventure. And beyond all the awards, the records, and the global success, Frozen left us with a message that stays in the heart, that fear isolates, but love connects, that no matter how cold life may feel, warmth always returns, and that true love isn't always romantic. Sometimes it's the quiet, powerful bond between two sisters, or two friends, or anyone who chooses care over fear. So, as we leave Arendelle behind, imagine the snow settling softly, the lanterns glowing, and Anna and Elsa standing side by side, finally free to be themselves. Thank you for joining me on this magical journey, for listening, for imagining, for feeling. If you enjoyed this adventure, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story we explore together. Because magic always comes back. Warmth always finds its way, and true love, real love, will always melt the ice.